Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And we're in the holidays, kind of a slower time in the garden, or less stressful, less time sensitive gardening now, but still plenty of gardening. Cleanups in our house. So planted 3 trees this week. So some things have been going, lots of evergreens. So some Arizona cypress, things I want to screen. It's time to look at and kind of clean up and then open up and then add to the landscape. And I thought I'd share just one thing that I find the secret to winter planting. This time you can plant in northern Arizona whenever the ground is not frozen, which is pretty much all the time. And so most of the folks in, let's say, colder areas, let's say Durango and further north, the Midwest, the ground freezes and you can't get a pick through that ice. Well, we don't have that. I think our ground froze. I think it was real cold the day of or the day before Christmas. And there was maybe a quarter inch. I doubt that much. I've had a little bit of the pond is frozen over once. And so and then it just quickly thawed. And so it's just we don't have that crazy cold that a lot of places have, which means if you can get a hole in the ground, if you can get a shovel in the ground, you can plant. And the plants like it. It's fine. They would rather be in the ground at your house than in the container here at the garden center. So the plants that we have now are kind of skewed towards more winter planting kind of things. That is a lot of evergreens, some grasses, some herbs, some things that they look good this time of year. Now we've got the sequence started. So the first shipment of fruit trees, shade trees, that kind of stuff, are going to start the end of this month. So January, first part of February, it's like full on everything. Bring in the lilacs, bring in the forsythia, go, go, go. We have 2 acres of plants to fill up. And it takes a while. It's a dozen trucks or more. You don't just bombard the staff with that much plant material all at once. So it's a rhythm we have. But they're starting to come. The first crop of pansies, we've got them I think the week before Valentine's. So that first crop of winter blooming pansies. And so they're leafing out. They look pretty good, but they're not the size. Got a few more days to go, but we're pushing them. So we're thinking forward. The 2024 pottery is here. And so it's kind of fun to see the new styles. So things are starting to happen, but you have less time, time sensitive. Like you have to get your tomatoes in now or you won't have enough time. That's the gardening season. We don't have that. You've got until the end of March to finish your pruning. You can get your soil prep ready anytime this month. You're not planting until February. That's when the potatoes and the garlics and the radishes and the carrots and those things go in. The rhubarb, all those go in February. You've got time. So enjoy it. Sip another cup of tea. Bake some more cookies. That's winter for gardeners. But this year, this last week, I did some cleanup. Then we kind of got it going. Here's the insider tip. If you're going to plant now, it's fine. Go ahead. If you find the plant you want. So for me, it was an Atlas cedar. So down on the courthouse, the statehood tree is a blue Atlas cedar. I wanted one of those. I live in Prescott, Arizona. Why wouldn't I want a statehood tree in my backyard? If it's a big enough space, half-acre lot, I can easily accommodate that. So I planted one. And it'll block out some road noise and some homes over there. So it increases my view. It worked out. Here's the insider tip. Do all the regular stuff that you do. So you're going to dig the hole wide, not that deep. You're going to add some mulch to loosen up that soil, to keep it from compacting so the roots can get through it faster. Put a little fertilizer in it because I know my soil is terrible. I actually staked the trees, so I know it's going to blow and get some snow. I know that's going to happen. It'll keep them upright, keep them healthier. The real secret is water. Water is your friend in winter, especially for new plants. And it's one that you take for granted because you're indoors. You don't have this time burden. You're not out there with a hose every day. In fact, you probably disconnected them and you only put them on when you with a quick connect. You're putting the hose on when you need it, which is not that often. And so you forget to water things as much, especially new plants. And so I planted three trees, two 15-gallon Arizona cypress and a 5-gallon blue Atlas cedar, the statehood tree. So two of the holes had some moisture, wasn't gooey wet, wasn't muddy. But I could feel there was a little bit of moisture. That's good. Made the hole easier to dig. The other one where I put the Atlas cedar, bone dry. And that ground was hard. And so I was mesmerized with how much moisture, how much ran the hose out there. I was amazed how much water that soil or that planting hole would accommodate. I didn't think it would ever fill up. And so you had to hydrate the surrounding soil and the plant itself. Now, I did that really well once. I'm set for a couple of weeks. I don't have to think about it. It's enough. So they're not using a lot of moisture, but they are using, all evergreens use moisture, actually all plants. All living things use moisture, but in the garden with your plants, the deciduous things they use a little less. Your evergreens like red tip photinias, your euonymus, all your conifers, the blue Atlas cedar, Arizona cypress, they're using moisture. And if they have not had their roots rooted out for a couple of years, so the secret is 2 years, 2 growing seasons. If after they've been in for a couple growing seasons, the roots are now out into the surrounding soil, less pressure is on you. When they're brand new, you've got to be more accurate. You need to be more diligent. You need to put it on the calendar. I watered today. In 2 weeks, follow up again. And so that will keep them healthy. I find that folks, when they first plant let's say a new spruce tree, or beautiful, you've got some beautiful pine trees here at the garden center. Plant a new one. They don't water it enough when they first put it in the ground. So they didn't hydrate that ground well enough when they first put it in. They were hydrating the plant, not the planting hole. You want that surrounding soil to be hydrated so that it doesn't wick away moisture from the plant you just put in the ground. If the ground's dry, which one of mine was just bone dry. A couple others, which were more of a slope, so the water kind of came towards those planting holes. Yeah, they had a little bit of moisture, not a lot. So they didn't require as much hydration right off the bat when I first put them in the ground. But what I do is I'll dig the hole, fill it halfway up with water, only to hydrate the surrounding soil. So the first bit of water is just for the soil around the plant. Then I'll pull the plant out of the bucket, put it in the ground, put my surrounding soil around it. Then I'll add some additional water to water that soil around that plant directly in the plant itself. So you're almost thinking twofold: water the soil around the plant, then water the plant. Now, every follow-up, I'm assuming that soil will stay hydrated because I put a lot of moisture into it. I'll follow up in a couple of weeks. I'm just mainly focused on the plant itself. So, and the soil just around the root of that plant. And when you do that, you have tremendous success next spring because the growth is going to be, it's going to take off with new growth. Oh my gosh, especially for evergreens, because evergreens really, you get one shot at this. They grow in the spring, and then they don't really grow anymore, especially for pine trees and spruce. Junipers a little bit, they put on more flush in the spring and just a little bit more later on, but spring is your time. This is why it's a good time to put those kinds of things in the ground. And the insider tip, again, I just shared it with you. Water is your friend when planting in the winter. So hydrate those things, put it on a clock, just put it on a calendar, put a Google timer, let Apple know, remind me in 2 weeks, water that new pine tree. I just put it in the yard. And it will be a game changer because you'll get better growth next year. Got a lot in store. So a lot of good tips this week. Lisa Lain's coming in with your garden questions right after this.
My living room feels so empty.
Now that the Christmas tree is gone, the house just seems so blah.
brighten it up with a big, bold, beautiful plant from Waters Garden Center.
Fill that cavernous space with tall tropicals, colossal cactus, and sizable succulents that bring the great outdoors indoors.
Make a gorgeous green space you can enjoy all year, not just for a season.
Unique, exclusive, one-of-a-kind houseplants found only at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com.